I recently read an article entitled Personalized Vocabulary Learning in the Middle School Classroom. This article was written by Mr. Robert Chesbrough of Skillman, New Jersey. Mr. Chesbrough is an 8th grade science teacher who came up with a vocabulary technique called In a Word, in a Symbol. When Mr. Chesbrough was young, vocabulary was taught by writing the word, then writing the definition. Mr. Chesbrough realized he integrated and remembered very little vocabulary this way. He also recalls that one time during vocabulary lesson, one of his friends said to him, "I'll cudgel you if you don't get your homework done." To cudgel someone is to beat them with a stick. Mr. Chesbrough has never forgotten that word or what it means, even though he rarely uses it. As he was thinking about that experience, he realized that emotion, connecting emotion to vocabulary, is what helps students internalize, personalize, and remember the vocabulary. That's one of the reasons he's never forgotten the word cudgel, because he had an emotional experience thinking about being beaten with a stick by his friend. He wasn't scared, but he could visualize that, and therefore an emotional response occurred, and he internalized that word. He wants to do the same for his students. So through this technique, he helps them to internalize vocabulary by making a personal and even emotional connection to it. In his article, he explains how the technique works. He does not have a poster like this in his room, but he does give each of his students a chart that looks very similar to this. So they individually get a chart, and on that chart, they have these different columns. Number, simply numbering the vocabulary terms. Here they have the vocabulary terms. Our example is variable. Then the other terms are listed down the page. They have a place for a definition. This would be a technical or dictionary definition. Students are asked to do this step on their own, unless it's part of a whole group time. Mr. Chesbrough says that many times he asks students to do this for homework and then bring it back the next day, ready to discuss in class. After the definition has been approved by Mr. Chesbrough, seeing that it's the definition they need for their vocabulary term, for their use in their classroom, in their lesson, or in their unit. After that's approved, Mr. Chesbrough asks students to fill in this column, the word column. This column is used for students to summarize the entire definition into a single word. This really puts students in critical thinking mode as they try to figure out how to assimilate all that this definition means and put it into one word. Here the word that students chose was changer. So a variable is something that changes in a controlled experiment. Here their summary, their one-word summary for that definition is changer. After students have come up with their one-word summary, Mr. Chesbrough asks them to come up with a symbol. Students can make the symbol whatever they want, but he asks them to keep it simple so that it's easy to remember. And also, they can use color, even though many times they don't have to or shouldn't if the color doesn't add to the understanding of the definition and the symbol. In this case, students chose to make a V shape out of coins for change. The coins here are silver to help them remember change, and they have numerical amounts on them, 5 cents, 25 cents, 10 cents. Again, helping them remember change or changer. So now students have gotten their terms, they've written their definition, they've thought critically about that definition and summarized it into one word. They've created a symbol about that word. Now Mr. Chesbrough asked them to make a weird personal connection to their own life. In this case, a student wrote, "Sometimes when I plug my phone in, it won't charge. I have to test different variables to see why it's not working. First, I test the cable by testing a different one. If that's not the problem, I check the light switch that controls the outlet to make sure it's on. If that's not the problem, I choose a different charging brick." So now these students have made this connection to their life, and that can elicit an emotional response. Students can connect with needing to charge their phone and frantically looking for a way to charge it. And if it's not working properly, then changing all those different variables to see what will work properly. This emotional connection to the vocabulary helps students to internalize and personalize the vocabulary in a way that helps them remember it better and longer. Students won't ever remember every vocabulary term they are given, but this technique helps students to remember more of their vocabulary terms for longer. Finally, Mr. Chesbrough talks about the fact that he himself has collected so many unique stories and connections from students, interesting symbols, and great word summaries for the different vocabulary terms he has. Because this is a critical thinking technique, and because students may not be familiar with it, teachers should offer lots of guided practice before they ask students to do this individually. So collecting different experiences and stories and symbols over the years gives students a great bank of information to draw from when they're helping students in that guided practice. Students can do this as group work or individual work. Either way, they should be able to share this with the other students to help trigger thoughts, memories, and experiences from other students that would help add to the depth of knowledge and understanding about these words.